It's 6:42 a.m., northern Caribbean waters, 20 miles off the Venezuelan coast. The horizon is still half asleep, dark blue waves rolling under the first hints of daylight. Aboard the Venezuelan Navy patrol ship Niguata, the morning had begun like any other. Engines humming at a steady 14 knots, radar sweeping in slow arcs, the air filled with the smell of diesel and salt. The crew was halfway through their 12-hour patrol, a mission so routine that even the junior officers were more focused on coffee than on the sonar display. But then something changed. The sonar operator, a young technician barely 23, noticed an irregular blip. At first, he thought it was a fishing trawler drifting off course. Then the signal grew stronger, deeper. He frowned, leaned closer, adjusted the gain, and froze. "Captain, I have a displacement anomaly. Bearing 086, range 2 miles, depth rising fast." Seconds later, the ocean itself erupted. A massive surge of water lifted like a living thing, throwing white spray 30 feet into the air. Out of the depths, a colossal wall of steel broke the surface, glistening black in the morning light. For a brief moment, everyone on the bridge was silent, staring in disbelief as a U.S. Navy Virginia-class attack submarine rose before them, barely outside their patrol line. No radio signal, no distress beacon, just a silent, deliberate surfacing. The Venezuelan captain gripped the railing so tight his knuckles turned white. He'd seen this kind of thing only in training videos. He muttered under his breath, "General quarters. All stations alert." The ship's klaxon wailed through the corridors, sailors scrambling to posts. The Niguata adjusted course, engines roaring as it turned to starboard to maintain a safe intercept angle. The captain lifted his binoculars, staring hard at the dark shape ahead. The hull was massive, smooth, featureless, and black as obsidian. No flag, no visible markings, but every trained eye knew what it was. A Virginia-class fast attack submarine, nuclear-powered, almost completely silent, capable of vanishing into the deep for months. It wasn't drifting, it was staging. Every movement of that submarine felt intentional. Every bubble, every ripple perfectly controlled. The Venezuelan ship's crew stood frozen at their stations, staring at a machine that represented everything they were trained to fear. For 3 long minutes, there was only the sound of seawater dripping down steel and the slow heartbeat of the engines. The captain gave the order, "Maintain recording. Do not transmit." Cameras rolled, sensors tracked, every log entry meticulously timestamped. No one yet realized what they were witnessing wasn't a mistake. It was a message. To understand the gravity of that message, you have to understand where this is happening. The Caribbean has always been more than a warm paradise of beaches and trade routes. It's a chessboard of strategy, a maritime intersection of U.S. interests, Latin American politics, and global influence. For decades, Venezuela has claimed extended control over its northern maritime borders, the so-called Bolivarian Security Zone. On paper, this gives them jurisdiction to patrol up to 200 nautical miles north of their coast. But international law says otherwise. The U.S. Navy regularly challenges these claims with freedom of navigation operations, known in naval circles as presence ops, subtle but powerful shows of dominance. The submarine surfacing wasn't random. It was the U.S. Navy's silent way of saying, "These waters are international, and we decide when to appear." The Venezuelan Navy knew this pattern. They'd faced flyovers, patrols, even reconnaissance drones. But a submarine surfacing this close? That was new. The tension inside the Niguata was thick enough to choke on. The sonar display glowed blood red from signal intensity. Every officer's gaze shifted between the sea and their radar. "Distance 1.8 nautical miles, the navigator said quietly. "Closing slow." The captain didn't blink. "Hold course 15 knots. Keep her in visual." His voice was calm, but his hand trembled slightly. Down below, inside the American submarine, the mood was entirely different. The interior lights glowed dim red, every station filled with quiet professionals. The air was cool, metallic, humming with precision. Commander Richard Vance, a 20-year Navy veteran, stood before the control panel, eyes fixed on the periscope feed. "Surface ops complete," his executive officer reported. "Visual contact confirmed with Venezuelan patrol vessel." Vance nodded slightly. "Maintain emission control. Cameras live. Record everything." His tone was calm, controlled. This was just another day on the job. But make no mistake, the timing was calculated. For months, the U.S. Navy had been running Operation Sentinel South, a multi-branch surveillance campaign designed to intercept narcotics, illegal weapons, and foreign intelligence operations filtering through Venezuelan waters. Intelligence reports suggested increasing Russian and Chinese maritime presence disguised as commercial traffic. Submarines like the Virginia-class were the perfect tools for this mission, invisible until they chose not to be. Surfacing so close to Venezuelan patrol routes wasn't just surveillance, it was a controlled psychological strike. A reminder that the US sees everything, everywhere, all at once. Back on the Venezuelan deck, the atmosphere was electric. Sailors lined the starboard side, staring at the enormous black tower just miles away. The captain ordered his weapons officer, "Hold fire. No targeting. Show readiness only." The twin 50 caliber machine guns remained cold, but loaded. The sound of waves slapping against steel filled the silence. For many of those young sailors, it was the first time they'd ever seen a submarine that close, the first time they'd felt the weight of true power. To them, that submarine looked like a relic from another world, something designed not just for war, but for domination. Then it came, one faint sonar ping. Clear, sharp, intentional. It wasn't aggressive, but it cut through the ocean like a sentence. Every Venezuelan officer knew what it meant. It was acknowledgement, not communication, but confirmation. The American submarine was saying, "Asterisk, we see you. We know you're there. And we're not going anywhere." Asterisk. For nearly 20 minutes, both vessels held their positions. The Naguada maintained visual contact. The submarine sat motionless, half submerged, the sunlight glinting off its wet hull. The only sound was the sea itself. This wasn't a standoff with guns or missiles. This was posture warfare, a contest of will and restraint. Modern navies rarely exchange fire. They exchange presence, positioning, patience. At 6:57 a.m., something changed. The submarine shifted slightly, its hull tilting a few degrees to port. Barely noticeable to human eyes, but enough to send every radar technician scrambling. "Sir, she's aligning toward us," came the report. The Venezuelan captain's jaw tightened. "Maintain intercept. Do not yield." His ship's engines whined louder as they adjusted to match the movement. For a few breathless minutes, both vessels moved parallel, like duelists circling in silence. Inside the submarine, Commander Vance watched the screen with measured calm. "They're holding steady," his XO said. "Good," Vance replied softly. "They're learning." To him, this wasn't confrontation. It was education. Every action was logged, not to provoke, but to study. Every radar pulse from the Venezuelan ship, every radio transmission, every movement pattern, all being recorded and transmitted through encrypted links to U.S. Southern Command. This was data warfare. The ocean was the new internet, invisible, silent, and deadly efficient. And then, without warning, the submarine began to descend. No radio call, no acknowledgement, just a slow, graceful dip of the nose. Water began cascading over the sail as the hull sank beneath the surface. Within seconds, only white foam remained. The radar blip flickered, then vanished. Silence returned to the Caribbean. For a long moment, no one on the Venezuelan bridge spoke. The captain stood motionless, his binoculars still pointed at the empty sea. The radar operator whispered, "Contact lost." The captain exhaled slowly. "Mark last position. Save all logs." His tone was professional, but inside he knew what they'd just seen wasn't an accident. It was a demonstration. Down below, the U.S. submarine slid back into the deep, descending to 200 feet. The crew resumed standard operations, the tension dissipating into the hum of the reactor. Mission event logged, the communications officer confirmed. Footage encrypted. Transmission to Southcom complete. Commander Vance simply nodded. "Good work, everyone. Let's go dark." Within minutes, the submarine disappeared completely, a ghost returning to its oceanic graveyard. By the time the Venezuelan ship regained composure, the sun was fully above the horizon. The sea was calm again, but the men on deck knew better. They had just encountered one of the most advanced machines ever built, one capable of staying hidden for months, launching missiles across continents, and vanishing without a trace. For them, it was a story to tell for years. For the U.S. Navy, it was just another entry in a mission log. Encounters like this never make the news. There's no headline, no press release. But in the quiet world of naval power, these moments define the balance of control. It's not about who fires first, it's about who's seen first, who decides the timing, and who owns the silence. The US Navy understands that better than anyone. Presence is power, silence is strategy. And on that quiet morning off Venezuela's coast, the ocean itself spoke that truth louder than any gun ever could. So here's the question. If you were in command of that Venezuelan ship, would you have turned away or held your course? Drop your answer in the comments below. I read every one. And if you want to dive deeper into real-world encounters like this, true stories from the shadows of global waters, make sure you hit like, subscribe, and join the fleet. Because out here, in the unseen wars of the ocean, the battle isn't about who shoots first. It's about who surfaces last.